you clearly have a diverse relationship with education, like we've been talking about. So you got a formal education at Cal Berkeley, a physical education in gymnastics, and then a mentorship from Socrates. But in my eyes, and what stands out the most and the biggest education that you got was from pain and physical pain. You described shattering your right leg in a motorcycle accident right before your senior year of college as it shook me up. But the emphasis on up here is that it's an upward trajectory and a real positive transformation. Talk to me about your relationship with physical pain and how it plays within your peaceful warrior framework.
Well, I've often preached about the benefits of adversity. In No Ordinary Moments, there's a whole chapter on it. I view daily life as a form of spiritual weightlifting. And if we don't lift any weights, we don't get any stronger. Many of us intuit that adversity has its value because we've looked back on our lives and we've all overcome certain aspects of adversity, a physical condition, a pain, um, challenges in life. Sometimes climbing out of a dark, deep, dark hole can give us the strength to climb mountains. Even the idea of voluntary adversity. Like I often ask people, how many of you do some kind of physical training or have done a sport? And that's a form of voluntary adversity. Life is tougher doing that than not doing it. It's easy to coast through college without doing any sports. I can't even imagine what that's like, or learning an instrument or new languages or whatever. Uh, it's relatively easy because that adds a burden. You've got to be training 3 hours a day in the gym or on the track or whatever, in addition to doing your studies, the academic work. So it's a form of voluntary adversity. We don't have to do it. Nobody forced us to. And then I ask, how many of you have maintained an intimate relationship with someone for more than, say, 2 weeks? And that's a form of voluntary adversity. It has its consolations, it has its delights, but also it's not easy having a long-term relationship. My wife and I will celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary this year, 50 years together. And you have to overcome some bumps in the road along the way, but it's not easy. In fact, I tell people, you want life easy? Sure. Don't ever take on any responsibility. You don't have to go to work and no intimate relationships, and life will be easier. Live in a little trailer in the woods. But even that has its challenges. And some people, it's like, have you had children? Voluntary adversity. Kids, our nerve endings are right out there. They're a challenge. Now we have 3 grandchildren in our area, and it's delightful and exhausting at times. Making a living, engaging in business, voluntary adversity, all of it. That's why I say we're all schoolmates in the school of life. We're all in training. And so that's how I view adversity. Now, in my case, by the way, I do not recommend fractures as a method of personal and spiritual development. One doesn't have to go through pain because there's enough challenges in everyday life anyway. So, but that did suddenly shake me up, as I mentioned. And it made me more sober, because in their 20s, you're kind of bulletproof, you can do anything in your 20s. And then most people around their 30s, mid-30s, become more thoughtful and more reflective and so on. And they realize they better find their way into life. Maybe not consciously in those words, but that's usually when it happens around one's 30th birthday. So that did, in my case, it was transformative. And many people who've dealt with cancer, for example, and are in remission now, they say that it was one of the best things that ever happened to me in a weird way. Not that they look for it, and nor will I look for any more broken bones. But we need to appreciate that it can, when it happens, we can look back on it and say, I overcame that. So and we roll up our sleeves, and I can handle whatever may come. So that was its gift, its value. Even the loss of a loved one Um, though our loved ones leave a gift behind for us. And anybody who's lost someone understands that.
Yeah, I like how you broke that down there between voluntary and involuntary, and that's the way that I see it as well. Slightly different framework, but pretty much the same. A topic that I talk a lot about is willing suffering versus unwilling suffering, where unwilling suffering can be a true gift at the end of the day because you wouldn't have asked for it and you wouldn't have been exposed to those experiences under your own control, but that can be truly transformative. And getting into your relationship with meditation, Reb Anderson taught you that the two most important things for meditating properly was one, sitting up straight so you're physically aligned in the present moment, and number two is that you must die. And the way that I interpret that is that meditation is always like a rebirth. When it came to your motorcycle accident, in a metaphorical sense, did it feel like a death afterwards and how things transpired?
Well, I could put it that way. Metaphorically, I could say I died to the old and became a different person in that way. That's when I refer to that it's shaking me upwards. So, in a way, I mean, and I could have died. Looking back at it, I was very fortunate. No head injuries, no spine injuries, a shattered leg. Very, very painful, but something I could recover from. And people have been injured worse. I acknowledge that in war and accidents and so on. And by the way, after that revelation from Reb Anderson, that Zen Roshi, quite a guy, um, he obviously didn't mean physically die. He meant die to attachments. And I created a meditation I do every single day. And I've done it for, I don't know, 12 years, maybe 13 years now. And it's a 4-minute meditation on the process of death and rebirth. Nothing has helped me to appreciate the life I have more than that, doing that meditation. That's why I created, that's why I teach it at some of my weekend workshops, that sort of thing. Because if you sit down to meditate and you're partly like, oh, I got to run an errand after this, we're still attached to life. We're still clinging to the things of our daily life. But yeah, we're closing our eyes and doing some breathing and focusing on our breath or our mantra, whatever it is. Whereas doing this meditation is a great entree, an introduction into whatever form of meditation someone else does, because you die to the world, and then you can really let go and open up to whatever may come.